This tool has made it so easy for me to understand and also find great compositions. I'm going to show you how to use it so that you can compose paintings easily and stop you from making compositional mistakes, so that you never have to second guess your decisions about composition again, and all while not spending any money at all or too much time to learn how to use this tool. I will also demonstrate how I use this tool to paint today's winter scene, so watch closely. When I look outside my window, there is just so much information that I just can't process it, and even when I decide what I want to paint, it's still very hard for me to know what will actually fit in my paper. But when I limit how many objects I actually can see, it is much easier to know what's gonna fit in my frame. This is why painting from a picture is so much easier than painting outdoors, because every time that you're looking at an image, you're looking at through a frame. But just looking at your subject through a frame is not gonna magically make your compositions better. You still have to find the balance of what works and what doesn't. And you can do this by allowing more space in the frame and also moving it around. I like to use the simple rule of thirds, and once I find something that is kind of pleasing, then I move on to my paper. Since I was using the rule of thirds, I also create that grid in my paper. This helps me have some guiding lines to know where I have to place what objects. And right now I'm just working with the lines from the top of the trees and then the bottom of the tree line. This also helps to have a better perspective of proportions. The reason why I pushed everything to the bottom is because when using the rule of thirds, you have several ways of using this rule. And one is that you can place your main subject in one of the thirds, as well as you can place your subject of interest or your point of focus where two of the lines intersect. But all these rules can be broken, and I am kind of breaking it right now because my center of interest is actually that little house and it's nowhere near the crossing of those two lines. The reason why I decided to do this was because I wanted more space for the sky, and that's because I just really love the colors and just the textures that were being displayed in the sky. By the way, I forgot to mention that the tool that I was using is just cardboard paper with a square cut out. This is also called a viewfinder, and you can probably find a tool that you can buy, but I honestly don't want to spend money on this because it is not really necessary. It's a nice to have, it's not a must have. There are several ways to use the viewfinder, and you can either use it by having it very close to your eye or very far away from your eye. And this is gonna be dependent on the size of the viewfinder. Some people have really big viewfinders, some people have very small one like mine. The way that you find if a composition is good or not, it just has a certain balance, as well as you can just learn about a few rules, for example the rule of thirds or the golden circle, but I honestly prefer the rule of thirds when you're looking through a viewfinder because it's something that I'm used to from photography. It's just easier to imagine some grid lines, as well as if you wanted to, you could tape some strings going across the whole of the cardboard, and in a grid fashion there you have your grid. But another way to do this without also having to buy or make anything is just using your phone, because your phone also has these grid lines. But I try to stay away from using my phone when I'm trying to paint the outdoors or plein air, because even though it's a useful tool, I'm not really learning how to look at a composition just by looking. I want to be able to train my eye to see the composition and be able to eliminate all the noise around it. So you can think of the viewfinder as a training wheels for the bicycle. You want to use the viewfinder as much as you can in the beginning, but at some point you have to try to not use the viewfinder. I believe that there's no one way of knowing how much you should use it, but one thing is for sure, that every single composition and landscape that you try, or even if it's not a landscape, maybe it's just still life, when you use the viewfinder, every single subject or scene is gonna present itself with new compositional problems or challenges. Therefore, when you're starting to get more familiar with a certain subject or scene, you probably will be less likely to need the viewfinder. But for things that are you painting a new subject, then the viewfinder is probably gonna be useful. But just because this tool makes it easier for us to know what a better composition looks like doesn't mean that we should stop learning about the subject. Composition is one of the four pillars of good painting, and to learn in depth all of these four pillars is just too hard. But I've created a roadmap for you to follow so it's easier to know what you should progress with next. And it's available to you for free in the description below. All you have to do is sign up to get it. I have worked hard in creating a way to simplify how you learn watercolors, but not only that, I also set it up in a way that you can track your progress systematically, so you always know what you need to work on next. So make sure you get your watercolor roadmap to never have to deal with not progressing in your work again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.